Hi guys, this is Tiffany here with the Outlandish Mama. Okay, so please don't mind my recording tab bar up here at the top. I've tried to do this video twice already and it's cut me off. So I have to pay attention to see if it stops or what the deal is. So I had a request on how to do the corner page markers for your Erin Condren Life Planner. So I'm going to show you how I do it fully with like the registration marks, the print to cut, and everything like that. So the first thing I do is I put my registration marks on. And most of us have either a cameo or a portrait, which are the newer versions. Some people do have the original or the SD, but I know with the cameo and the portrait, you have to have this little square, or else the printing and the cutting is going to be off, or not the printing. I'm sorry, the cutting when your like little laser eye goes to um, look for the registration marks, so it can tell the machine where to cut. So you always want to do type 1, which is the cameo or the portrait. Like I said, if you have the cameo or the portrait. I do my insets down to the lowest possible setting because when you load your mat, I load my mat all the way to the very leftmost little line thing, I guess a guide is what it's called. And the reason for that, which most people do not know, if you have a piece of sticker paper, which is an 8.5 by 11, if you look on your mat, there are two triangles, one at the top and one at the bottom. And if you look, it says the 8.5 by 11, like off to the side, and that's where you're supposed to line your paper up, not with your first like inch squares or within this little square all the way up at the top. So that's how a lot of times it gets like misaligned or something like that. So do your registration marks, and then what I do is I go in and I make a box. It doesn't matter how big or small that you make it, because you're just gonna resize it anyway. So you're gonna go up here to the scale window after you make your box. You're going to unclick this lock aspect, and then you're gonna put it at 1.5. Okay, so I don't know how much you got that. So basically what you do is you go up here and you hit scale window, make sure this lock aspect is unchecked, and measure resize it to 1.5 by 1.9. And then this is going to fit right inside the white part of the box. It's without the morning, day, or night headings. So then what you do, if you have the free version, you have these four up here. If you have the designer edition like I do, you have everything. Excuse me. Now what you do is you can go to the straight one. You always want to make sure that the solid one is clicked, because it'll make a line for you instead of you having to go in and put another line. If you hit outline, I'll show you an example. Okay, if you just hit outline and you go to make a cut, basically what it does is it just cuts it without making a line. Pretty simple. As you can see, there's a white little thing right here and then a white little thing right here. And you can go into your arrow pointer and you can separate the two pieces. Now, when you do the solid, it makes a line for you. So that way you won't have to mess with making a line, getting your corner squared up, everything like that. So, alright, so you make your solid, you go back down here, and this is how you get your knife back. And you just kind of line it up to where you want it. Now, if you make a cut and you don't like it, say you want it bigger, don't worry. You can always hit your undo button and it goes back and you can cut it however big or however small you want it. So, after you do that, you separate the two. And after you separate the two, you want to select your shape, and you can make it whatever color you want. Now, I do not make, if I'm making multiples of this of the same color, I don't just color in the shape. What I do is I keep it blank and then I go and make a rectangle around it and fill it in with whatever color that I want. So we'll say that. And whenever you make your rectangle, if it doesn't show up, you always want to right click and then hit send to back, and then it will show your other design right here. Now the purpose of me doing this is I can make the rectangle bigger or line it up so that way if my cut happens to be off just a little bit, it won't have any white edges. It'll still have the colored edge. Excuse me. Alright, so what I do here, or after this point, I'm just going to make these a little bit shorter. What I do after this point, sometimes it's hard just to select your exact shape that you want. There you go. Is I go in and I make a text of whatever I want it to say. So let's pick a different font. We'll go cast iron is kind of cool. So I'm just going to put doc appointment. Abbreviate it because I abbreviate everything. And then I'm going to make it small. You always want to highlight it. Or you can, make it smaller first if that's what you want to do. I'll go bigger. I'll go like a 16. There you go. And then go up here to the color or the fill color. Make sure that is highlighted and you fill in whatever color that you want. I like it to be black because black shows up. My printer prints darker than what the actual color that you see is. So on here is like a very light blue, but when I print it, it's gonna show up pretty much like this color right here. So after you do that, you just want to rotate it around. And you want to fit it in the box. And you can always resize it either by doing it like this, or you can go in and make like it 2 different lines, or whichever way you want to do it. So then you go up here to your cut settings. Now it's going to highlight dark red, whatever is going to cut. I don't want this outside line to cut, so I'm going to hit no cut on that, and then I'm going to go in here to my text of doc appointment and then hit no cut. And I'm just going to move this just so it is lined up a little bit better with my triangle. And then you can go in here and like put in whatever design that you want, but basically you only want it to cut the triangles. And then if you like the way that this is done, the easiest way is to go in and right click, group these 2 things. So that way it's only one shape and you can duplicate it, you can move it around, you can do whatever you want. So you can either right click and hit duplicate, which sometimes it's a little bit harder to move. So I go in here to the replicate window and then you can either do down or right. I normally do below, and then click on it and move it just a little bit. Move it just a little bit more, and then an easy way to do it is go in and highlight these 3 and then duplicate. I meant to hit duplicate right, but either which way it will work because it's easier to move around. So just duplicate right again and move it a little bit. And that way, if your cuts are a little bit off, they won't just like fold into one another. If they're off, you can kind of see. And if you want to like move this up to the very top, or to the very bottom, you can highlight it all so it stays one big blob and move it. Typically you don't want anything in these crosshatches, because if you have anything too close to your black registration marks, it's not gonna recognize your registration marks. It's gonna recognize it as an error, and it's gonna have a hard time registering it, especially if you have a darker color around it. So I hope this video helps, and if you have any comments or questions, just let me know. Thanks, guys.